Welcome to Made in Science, the official podcast of the University of Stuttgart. Today, we welcome Mahsa Taheran. She is space software engineer and member of the European Stratospheric Balloon Observatory Design Study Team at our university. But most of all, she is a recent recipient of the Amelia Earhart Fellowship in aerospace engineering and space sciences. Of course, we want to talk with you about that prize and what it means to you, but first, a very warm welcome, Mahsa.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here.
Mahsa, in your work as a space systems engineer, what exactly did the career path that you took up mean for you when you decided to go that way?
Before deciding to go toward aerospace and particularly from the beginning, space, I was a teenager and my preference was to study literature or become a writer.
Or to become a writer. Now, that is really something very, very different, going from literature that can be focused very much on Earth all the way up to space, what you are doing now. The Balloon Observatory here in Stuttgart, how special is it in your evaluation, in your mind?
It's a meaningful project, especially for astronomical scientists, those that look for having access to data for their research. This is a project that's hoping to open up more opportunities for astronomical groups to either launch their instruments or access the data or basically work in a bigger scope that they cannot by themselves, by the resources that they have, do without some support. So our main objective was to basically democratize that space, provide more opportunities for these research groups, and give them a better access, cheaper and usually faster.
You just mentioned cheaper. So I was wondering, in how far does the balloon benefit this outcome more than non-balloon observatories?
What balloon observatories usually bring is a faster time to launch, which means that you also can test your technologies faster. Usually the problem we have, so the alternative is usually the space. The observations that can be done on balloons also can be done on space, but we have to always consider the time scale. When we talk, for example, about James Webb, this is a project that takes 20 years to develop, meaning that if you have an instrument that you want to work with, it takes 20 years. You might be as well retired after that when you get the data. So what balloons bring is access that is faster. So you have that data faster, usually cheaper, considerably cheaper, and with almost the same quality, almost the same access to parts of the spectrum that we don't have access from the ground.
I understand there are researchers from several countries involved in this particular project, so there is a high degree of internationalization. When did you become aware of this aspect of internationalization as being an important part of your work?
In general, in the space industry, from the beginning, so from when you basically enter in, I started in Iran, so you would not really notice that in Iran. It wasn't also, there was not much going on in terms of space activities at the time. But when I moved to Europe, I was 21 years old. And I think from the beginning, you notice it in different projects that you start working with, in different programs. You see people from more than one country is being involved. It might be that the scope still is Europe, North America mainly. But still, in this scope, there is a high degree of internationalization that you notice from the beginning. For me, it was probably the highest point of it in the beginning was when I participated in the International Space University program. That's where I actually met a lot of people from different institutions, either as students or as lecturers. That was probably the highest point.
And how does this relate actually to the number of women in science that you work with? In your home country, Iran, many women study in the field of engineering. Why do you think that is the case?
There is a lot of historical and social and political context to it. So it's not that we by culture see women as engineers. Probably it's the other way around, that they're not seen culturally as engineers or working in such fields, or even a huge part of the work environment normally. But given that politics actually affects how females behave, there's right now probably more knowledge about the situation of women in Iran. The movement of women in Iran actually started long ago, and part of it was to stay against the cultural norms, to resist against the cultural norms, and that's why going to engineering was basically breaking that barrier from the bottom, not from the up. It wasn't that there was positive discrimination to let women study engineering, or that they were so much welcome or supported by the government. But this was partly the resistance from the bottom.
Have you yourself decided to help female students and female colleagues to get ahead in their work? Can you influence that at all?
Probably I have tried. I would say it's what you can do is still limited as long as you don't have that authority to to decide or to put schemes in place to support women. But I think our personal efforts are still there. You see a student that needs some guidance, some mentoring. I mean, I'm not there yet to be, the best mentor, but from the, limited experience, limited success that I've had, I usually try to also guide, students that I see that are starting, or those that are not. They don't necessarily think that this would be a path that they could succeed in. They have doubts. They come to you, so shall I do this? What does it take to actually go in this path? And can I be successful in this background? Yes, I try to give them that guidance that yes, there is not that limitation that if you are a female or if you're a woman in Iran, you cannot actually enter this field.
And what about Stuttgart, the very situation that you experienced since you came here?
Would be the same. I think the problems in Stuttgart are different, or the background is different. So I think there would be a lot of explicit pressure in Iran to form you as a woman, to imply that this is not your space. This is not something that you can enter, and that's very explicit. In Stuttgart, I've been here for 4 years, so I can't really say that that I've been here for 20 years and I can analyze what's going on. But in general, I've noticed that even though there's not that much explicit barriers to getting into engineering or to aerospace engineering or space industry, I see less women who are willing to get into it. So I think there might be implicit factors. And I usually try to, if we have discussions in the workplace, in the university, bring it up. That why is that? Usually, talking to my German colleagues, because they probably understand their society way better than me. But I think it's important to also understand when we're in Germany and talking about female participation, we have to look more into implicit factors that affect females to not choose to get into STEM, get into engineering or aerospace.
So how does it feel for you then, if you are in a room where the majority are male colleagues? How does it feel to be a minority in your work?
Sometimes hard, sometimes, but it's partly also, I think, our own imagination. How I see myself as minority. Do I see myself as minority? Do they see myself as minority here in the room? I think partly we also notice it as women. We're sensitive on it because we in different situations over the life we actually experience as minority what it means. So it might not be that explicitly someone says something, someone that you explicitly see the discrimination, but you have it in your mind, in the background, that this is possible, that I'm still a minority. So I think I haven't noticed that much explicit discrimination from the male colleagues. They're careful most of the time, especially in Germany. They're very careful in how they talk to you, how they give you the space to also talk. But partly you're still that minority and you sense it and you have it unconsciously in how you sit in the room.
When it comes to your work, you have been extremely successful already. So one of the reasons is you have been working very, very hard for this, as it should be. Now, let us also talk about the aspect of good moments in life. How important are they or have they been in your life so far? What is the element of luck that you may have experienced in your career path as well?
Yeah, I don't know if I can call myself extremely successful, but it's compared to what I've imagined before. I think I'm happy with the path that I have took up to now and what I've experienced. Luck was there always. I wouldn't say that it doesn't play a role. I usually tell people that it plays normally an important role. It might be that you work hard, you work way harder than the rest, but you, without having that lucky moments, you probably might not get there. Hard work is not necessarily enough at this point in our system. But I was lucky to actually get that opportunity from the beginning to study in Europe. Though I was also unlucky at the time, I think, and I worked also hard for it. For example, there were times that my work contracts were canceled due to sanctions on Iran. There were times that actually the first admission that I got for my master was canceled due to sanctions on Iran. I was going to get my visa and go to UK, and I received an email saying that because I'm not allowed as an Iranian to enter that campus anymore, they canceled my admission. And working hard, I was probably also naive at the time when this happened. For example, I wrote, I think, several emails to different parts of European Commission mentioning that this is discrimination and that they have to fix it, which, though I have to say that it actually, they responded to my request, which was funny. I mean, I was 21 and I was in Middle East, and I thought that this might be a good idea, that I at least stand up for myself. And they basically gave me a different admission that I hadn't applied for. So it worked. It could have, just end up in spam somewhere by European Commission officers, but it's probably luck, who reads your email, who sympathizes with your situation. They shouldn't necessarily, I wasn't a European, they're not necessarily responsible for what happens to citizens of the rest of the world. But so it was luck. it was luck that I was supported by Anusha Ansari to go study at International Space University after that, because again, I had not applied. It was luck that I came to Stuttgart because, I had a friend actually working here, and he introduced me to the team kindly, and it just worked out. So, yeah.
There is that aspect, for sure. And I asked about luck, but it also shows there are some regulations, there are rules, and there is the human factor involved that you described, just how people then behave in certain situations. And they did, as you just said. Now, the other people in your life who have certainly been very, very helpful are your parents also. So what was their reaction when you told them that you were going for a major in engineering?
For engineering, they were quite happy. They were quite happy that I moved away from literature to engineering, as they thought, my mom has a PhD in humanities, so not that she had anything against social sciences or humanities studies, but that she thought this would be better for me in terms of career, rather than going to literature and having this ambitious to mind that I would become this author, well-known one. But yeah, my father was as well very happy. My mom wasn't that much excited about the aerospace part of it. As I said, it wasn't really popular or something that females would go to. To me, it was unique. It was something that probably separates you from the crowd. And my father was really into that part of it. That's something new. That's something modern. And he was very supportive.
On your way, you went in your education, I'm sure, and you have talked about some already, obstacles and challenges. What turned out to be much easier than you actually thought?
So normally what I thought was that, I'm coming from a country that at the time did not have this field. It wasn't necessarily, when you are an American, this is part of your country's basically pride, that having all those history of space flight. So I assumed that this would be hard, that everyone is way ahead of me, and that it would take a lot of work to be really, get there, to be part of the community. And that part, I think at the end, I got a lot of support, and it wasn't that hard as I expected.
You mentioned your interest in literature.
Yeah.
I was wondering, it's never too late, certainly, to, of course, continue with the reading, but also perhaps to sit down at one day and write about your experiences as well, combine it perhaps in a fictitious way or as a description of what you have experienced to encourage other female researchers to follow your way as well. Now, the balloon made me certainly think of Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days. Were you interested in science fiction when you mentioned earlier you read literature, or was it way beyond that? What inspired you?
In general, way beyond that. So I definitely started the first actual book. Novel that I read was from Jules Verne. I think I was 7 that I read the Travel to the Center of the World, and it was very exciting for me. And I thought, as a 7-year-old, I just was into reading. I had normally smaller books, and that was like the first big project for me. And I loved it. And I, over the years, also had my favorite science fiction books. Probably the one that I love the best is Stanislav Lem, Solaris, stays with me forever. Also the movie, not only the book, but the movie as well, is the one that I love. But my interest in literature did not end with science fiction.
And it's always an inspiration, of course, reading whatever genre and literature as well. Talking about the inspiration, this brings us directly to the Amelia Earhart Fellowship again. The award is especially dedicated to women in Ph.D. doctoral studies in aerospace engineering and space sciences. And it's given to researchers all over the world for a certain, I think, up to 30 fellowships per year. How does this fellowship motivate you to influence other female students in your area in this particular moment in life to follow in your footsteps?
The influence, the motivation that it brings is quite huge to me. So it was actually a big thing in my life. I would say that I applied the year before and I didn't get it. And the second year, I was also at a good place. I think few weeks before the deadline, 3 weeks before the deadline, I had lost my father. And given that I could not go to Iran, I actually just got the news over the phone and that was it. And my father had a big role in all my decisions in life. So I was so in, can I still apply? Does it make sense? I'm not really, it's hard because you also have to write, about your research. It's a completely different place. I'm not there yet. And, but my supervisor, Professor Klinkner, supported me and, motivated me to still apply. You have nothing to lose. So the time that I could not believe that I got the fellowship, it was really motivating me to continue that, even though maybe I moved to Germany to continue this path and I couldn't basically be with my father for the whole time and I lost him and, everything seemed really upsetting. Also giving hope that maybe it was the right choice. Maybe my father was actually happy, that I left, that I, stayed with my ambitions. So it was motivational from that point of view, that perspective. And also maybe then it brings also with itself not only the motivation to work for, the women and inspire them, but rather a responsibility to give back. I see it more as a responsibility, as putting, something on your shoulders, which is valuable, to do also something valuable for the community, to give back, to do your best, in the scope that you can do, to bring more fairness, to reduce discrimination, explicit or implicit.
So in my mind, I see in the news when a new mission is going for space, there are mixed teams these days, and you have male and female researchers on board, but the majority is still male. So when will I see that, say, there is a ratio of 2 or 3 female researchers and 1 male going? When do you see that happening?
I wouldn't say that would be near future. And it would be hard to give it dates, let's say, in 10 years we're there. That is probably not really scientific to say. But what I want to emphasize here, from my point of view, is the fact that we reached here is basically a collective effort. So if we stop putting that extra effort all the time to talk about this, to discuss this, to reduce discrimination internationally around the globe, it wouldn't get better. So when do we see that? Probably as long as we put that effort, it's going to be sooner.
Let's perhaps address this in a even more concrete form. In your mind, what exactly needs to change to have more women going into space engineering in the future?
One thing that we probably need to see more are female leaders. So, and that brings me to what has to be changed is definitely giving that opportunity to females. I think mentoring has a significant role to promote the idea that this is not a field that you're limited in, that you cannot enter. And I think as long as you see that there are women also working there. Yes, there are women that actually reach those leadership roles. You are probably as a little girl more inspired, and the mindset can change.
The mindset. Let's bring it back on Earth and talk about moment 7. As you know, we, at the end of our podcast, have always a couple of very precise questions, and I would like to ask you to answer the next 7 questions really as shortly as possible. Moment 1. What do you prefer, Spätzle or Maultaschen?
Spätzle.
Moment 2. Is there one thing that you would like to change about the world?
Many things.
Moment 3. Do you have a book or a movie or a music recommendation for us?
Yes, Nostalgia from Tarkovsky.
Moment 4. The best advice that you have ever received was?
To not give up.
Moment 5. Your favorite place on the campus at the University of Stuttgart is?
Near the lake at Vaihingen campus.
Moment 6. If you could start all over again, what would you do differently?
I would hug my father way more.
And moment 7. The best thing about Stuttgart is?
My house.
Thank you, Masha. It's good to know that you live both on Earth, but also for the future, and every now and then get ideas from space also. It has been great talking to you, and we wish you all the very best for your future work. And once again, congratulations on the fellowship.
Thank you so much. It was a really interesting discussion, and thank you for having me again.
From all of us, please stay healthy, stay good, stay tuned for our conversations that are always based on what is made in science.